Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's a great Wednesday in the nation's capital, and we're starting our day the right way here on O'Connor and Company with all the news and information you need. Hopefully, you'll end up with a smile on your face, despite some of the news that we have. You still got to keep smiling through it all. It's 7:07. Thanks for tuning in here. Coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to touch base with Phil Wegmann. He's the White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics. At 8:05, Virginia Delegate Scott Wyatt is seeing the carnage in Richmond, and we'll get an update from him. And at 8:35, now Gardner, Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom, will have him sort of Europe-splain to us exactly what to expect from Trump's visit to Davos. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel, who's been mom-splaining things to me all morning long because she's the proprietor of the Mom Wars podcast and Substack. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. I hope that you don't think that last amazing segment about Meghan Markle meant that I'm not going to also ask him about Meghan Markle, because I've not gotten my fill yet.
We really thought you got it out of your system. All right. Well, noted.
Let's talk about real things.
Yesterday, the Department of Justice announced that they had served grand jury subpoenas to 5 different Minnesota government officials, including Governor Tim Walz's office, Attorney General Keith Ellison's office, and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey's office. Now, it appears that these subpoenas, because here's the thing, we got to explain, which of all of the crimes we've witnessed over the course of the last month or two are these pertaining to? We already have ongoing criminal investigations into the governor and the attorney general over their either participation in the rampant fraud that appears to have gone unchecked, unnoticed, or certainly unprosecuted in what appears to be mostly the Somali community. This is with all of the daycare centers, healthcare centers, and what have you, up to the potentially $9 billion worth. They're already investigating whether those elected officials at the very least neglected their duty in trying to stop that fraud from happening, or at worst actually benefited directly from it and encouraged the fraud from happening. No, these subpoenas have to do with their alleged active participation in obstruction of justice and interfering with federal agents in the course of their duty. That duty, of course, would be enforcing immigration laws in the cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding areas. And I don't know, it seems to me that if we are going to start prosecuting people for interfering with the operations of federal law enforcement officers doing their duty, there's plenty of evidence right out of their own lips in indicting these guys for doing exactly that. They're proudly raising money off of their obstruction of these operations.
Yeah, so I referenced this tweet from our friend Matt Whitlock in the last segment, but I really want to reiterate it because he said, at what point do Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, and Jacob Frey acknowledge they've created an incredibly dangerous situation and call for their activists to stop? We saw how dangerous it is when they martyred a woman and then spent a week eulogizing her as if she was a hero. Someone has already died in this situation, and they seem to be rooting for more deaths and more anarchy. I truly do not understand, as people, and I wrote a column about this actually for the Washington Examiner yesterday. It's on the website in the In Focus section. But these are people who claim to be progressives. And for them to betray everything they claim to believe in by doing this, they are I don't understand. I don't understand where their base is. They've totally betrayed everything they claim they stand by.
Yeah. 1,000%. Although, the key word there is claim. This is what they claim to stand by. But the fact of the matter is a lot of these politicians, they've all come of age and come to politics and elected office in the age of Obama. And I keep reiterating that this is who Barack Obama was. I mean, he was a lot more polished about presenting it, but he was a community organizer. He idolized Saul Alinsky in Rules for Radicals. He participated in this exact direct action that we're saying. That's what they call it. Direct. Oh, it's not a riot. It's direct action. Well, it's making life very miserable, chaotic, and traumatizing for normal Americans who are just trying to go about their lives. And, by the way, usually their direct action has to do with getting in the face of or in the way of, board members of a bank or CEOs of a corporation that they want to publicly shame, agitate, and force their political agenda on them, or in some cases extort money. There's a reason why Al Sharpton stands on the lawn of a CEO of a bank with a bullhorn calling him a racist, because nobody wants their neighbors to have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. So then they'll send him a check or to the Rainbow Coalition or whatever the hell. No, he's in charge of the National Action Network, I think. It's Jesse Jackson who does Rainbow Coalition, but they'll pay him off. They'll say, okay, get off my lawn. Here's money. Set up a DEI program. I don't care. This stuff works. The difference is they're not employing it against a CEO. They're employing it against ICE agents. They're employing it against the federal government. That's where they draw the line. And I hope that when these subpoenas are issued and the grand jury takes a look at all this evidence, they look at the fundamental core of this obstruction, and that is sanctuary policies, Bethany. Mm-hmm. Even the New York Times has had to admit that in the states where local law enforcement cooperate with ICE, we are not seeing any incidents like this. We are not seeing any of the chaos in the streets because all of the immigration laws that are being enforced and the people who have a detainer for deportation, it's handled in a safe, legal, orderly way. Instead, Minnesota insists on releasing all these people to the streets, and that's where the problems begin.
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit into the next segment about, it's not just Minnesota. It's also here in Maryland and Montgomery County. But what's crazy to me is that the people that they're blocking, ICE is not going after, what did they call him? A Maryland dad?
Yes,
just
Maryland,
a Maryland dad. These aren't just, innocent citizens who have somehow got caught a foul. They are criminals. They are wanted because they did something criminal, not just, quote unquote, being here illegally. They committed crimes as well. Yeah. And I don't understand how they think this is a winning issue.
And here's what's amazing, Bethany, and this is where the hypocrisy of the political left really does shine through. Because you and I, we're normal people, you and I, Bethany. We really are.
I think we are, yes.
Especially when it comes to certain aspects of foreign policy. And I remember you and I were both very much in favor of opening up refugee status and giving asylum to people from countries who really do deserve refugee status and deserve asylum. We should have a robust, humane asylum policy here in this country. Those policies that we have, though, have been so exploited and so manipulated and so warped that it allows the rapists and the pedophiles and the sex traffickers and the drug traffickers and the gang members and the murderers all claiming falsely that they're refugees and they deserve asylum, and then they hide behind this, and the left embraces it and said, that's right, you can't touch them because they're refugees, and that's what red pills us.
Yes.
That's what turns us into, no, screw it, throw them all out.
Yep. And that's a lot of the column that I wrote for the Washington Examiner was, when there's rampant fraud in these programs that are supposed to help people, the people who are most hurt are the people they're meant to help.
Yes.
You're not doing anyone a favor by ignoring fraud. You're ensuring that these people don't get the services that they need.
That's right. And now, there was a time when people from Somalia really did deserve to have asylum because of that war-torn nation, because of the chaos, because of the dysfunction. And now, honestly, I've lost my sympathy.
I know.
They have forced me to lose my sympathy. It's not valid anymore. That said, the jump the shark moment could very well have been the Don Lemon Black Lives Matter invasion of a Baptist church, intimidating and traumatizing Sunday worshipers this last weekend. What's next for that? Well, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made a big announcement. You'll hear that and more on the latest out of Minnesota coming up in 60 seconds.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
To call the mob that invaded a church on Sunday in St. Paul anti-ICE is really understating the case. They're anti-Christian, anti-First Amendment, anti-civilizational norms. They're anti-anything that America really stands for, that brought them to the point where they were barging in, trespassing in a peaceful Christian worship service, getting in the face of people, screaming at them, forcing them out, chasing them to their cars. It was a nightmare. And it was completely illegal. I mean, lots of laws broken. Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, he the next day showed up on Don Lemon's podcast to say, oh, yeah, listen, sometimes the First Amendment can be messy, but I see no crimes here. Well, here's Kristi Noem yesterday talking about what she saw.
And that pastor really did a remarkable thing there, trying to protect his parishioners.
And even the parishioners, I imagine, have felt and feel intimidated. And
they did, and there's going to be arrests in the next several hours, Greta. There will be arrests tied to that, and people will be brought to justice for how they violated the law in that situation.
Well, Don Lemon is a journalist, and so I thought he was going, and so when I first saw it, I assumed he was going in as a journalist covering it. I mean, I go into bad places and ask questions all the time, but when his comment about the white supremacy all of a sudden made me think, well, maybe he wasn't there as a journalist.
Yeah, well, Greta, not only that comment, but the fact that ahead of time, before this even happened, he said that he'd conducted some surveillance before they went into this church. He identified individuals that were going in with him that were activists in the work that they'd done in the past. The fact that this entire situation was then posted on the Black Lives Matter website, all of that is something that they're going to be responsible for.
So that sounds like even Don Lemon might be looking at arrests. But you heard the headline there on Greta Van Sustren's show on Newsmax. Arrests are coming. Said Tuesday night that they could be arrests in the next several hours related to this incident. So we'll keep an eye on that, certainly. Meanwhile, one bright spot out of Minnesota, unless you want to comment on...
I do. I just would like to see the body cam footage of Don Lemon being arrested if that happens. If there's like a request form that I have to fill out, maybe I FOIA it. I don't know, but I would really appreciate to see... I would really appreciate seeing. Yeah,
we could pay off the national debt.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's all I have to say.
You may have missed it, but yesterday we played a highlight of the podcast. He appeared on the Jennifer Welch, the I've Had It podcast. This is probably unkind, but I've now begun referring to her as White Elphaba. She has that.
Can you explain that reference? I don't get it.
Elphaba is the Wicked Witch in Wicked.
Okay.
In the Wicked. You haven't seen the Wicked movies?
I haven't.
Well, you're dead to me. Anyway, she's White
another 2
Elphaba.
hours.
But on that podcast, Don Lemon revealed that the only reason that he's getting attention in this matter is because he's a gay black man.
Well,
so do with that what you will. Meanwhile, here's a bright spot coming out of Minnesota. Get this. They have a Senate race coming up. The lieutenant governor, Tim Walz's hand-selected lieutenant governor, who last time we saw her donned a headscarf, a hijab, and stood with the Somali community by repressing her own freedoms and rights and covering up her hair on camera because she stands with the Somali community. She, it appears, is going to get the Democrat nomination, although it is a bit of a crowded field in Minnesota for this open Senate seat. No Republican has emerged really to take, that I know of. The governor's race seems to be getting a lot of attention in Minnesota, but not the Senate race. Well, that changed yesterday. Public filing for a senatorial campaign, Republican, Michelle Tafoya, former NFL, NBC Sports, ESPN sideline reporter.
I'm nodding like I know who this is.
She's got a podcast. It's on the Salem network of podcasts, and it's which means she's kind of my colleague in the podcast world. She was on the Media Research Center cruise that I just took last year with listeners and with supporters of Media Research Center. We had a great time. She's the real deal. She's great. She's from Minnesota. She lives in Minnesota still. She's a Republican. She's conservative. She's
her.
Outspoken. She's got a public profile from 2 decades plus working in television sports, specifically as an NFL reporter. That could be something there. To say what you will about Minnesota, they have sent Republicans to the Senate. They've even elected Republicans as governor. Look at Tim Pawlenty, and of course I'm thinking of Norm Coleman as senator, who really should still be there had Al Franken and the Democrats not stolen that election. They like their celebrities. Don't forget they voted for Jesse the Body Ventura to be their governor. Michelle Tafoya is the real deal. And she's a real conservative Republican, and this could get very interesting.
I think so. I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
You need to read up on Michelle Tafoya.
I
You'll
clearly
like
do.
Check
I'm
out
not
her
a sports
podcast.
ball person. You know that.
It's 7:23.
WMAL FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:37 on O'Connor and Company. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to our little extravaganza. It's Larry O'Connor with, hey, that's Bethany Mandel. I know you.
Good morning.
Bethany, coming up at 8:05, we're going to check in with Scott Wyatt. He's a Virginia delegate down there in Richmond, and he's just having to witness the carnage there that happens when Democrats take over every lever of power, and it ain't good. 8:35, we'll speak with Now Gardner out of Heritage. He's going to give us sort of a European analysis. Not that he's a European, but he was born there. He's going to tell us what they're thinking about the president's trip to Davos and this whole Greenland stuff. But let's get another perspective on that right now with a friend of the program, good man Phil Wegmann. He's the White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics. And Phil, you didn't make the cut. You're not in Davos right now?
I am cold enough in Washington, D.C. I don't think I would survive in Davos.
That's true. It is kind of fun to watch what all the media people who are assembling there. And I think Maria Bartiromo looked like she just walked out of like a Siberian boutique with this giant fur hat. That's a good look for you, Phil. You may not get the show in Davos, but you did get quite a show yesterday in the briefing as the president celebrated his first year in office by holding court for, how long did it go, about 2 hours?
I think I had the exact time written down the other day, but it's close to 2 hours. He took something like 26 questions, and we were honestly in the briefing room all wondering if he was going to take questions. He walked in there and started reading line by line from some of the 365 accomplishments in 365 days that this White House says he had. And it was stream of consciousness. I've got to be honest with you, it was low energy. And until he got to questions, there wasn't a tremendous bit of news. It was just kind of a Trump rally rehash.
I suppose there was a moment where he was showing the pictures and the criminal charges against some of the worst of the worst that had been apprehended by ICE in Minnesota and deported. I mean, I find that newsworthy only because that sort of escapes the coverage of Minnesota on most of the cable networks.
I think that's fair. Otherwise, as he was talking about what the administration has done on deregulation, on trying to bring down inflation, all of this was, fair for the administration to highlight. And, Donald Trump did his best in the briefing room. And he took his sweet time because he had a captive audience. We couldn't go anywhere.
So this is the thing that I love to ask of people who are actually in the room. What did animate him? Like, where did you see Trump come alive? Whereas he was just he was reading from a script or some stuff and he didn't really care. But what was the stuff that made him wake up and actually, excited him?
I think he had a bit of a gleam in his eye at the thought of making the Europeans wait. Donald Trump was a special guest in the briefing room yesterday. He was unscheduled, came in at the last minute, and that room was absolutely packed. When he was at the podium, he definitely took a little bit of pleasure in the unscheduled remarks and maybe pushing back his departure from the White House for Davos. He made a joke about how he could make them wait a little bit longer. And certainly if you know Donald Trump, the progressive populist that he is, he certainly relishes sort of making the world elite wait on him and align with his schedule.
Phil, we're awash with conventional wisdom right now of pundits sort of Trump-splaining, the president's recent activity with regard to Greenland and various statements or true social posts that he's made, and how this sort of preempts the mission at the World Economic Forum. I think it's hilarious when people say, well, he's stepping on his message. No, he knows what his message is going to be, and maybe he wanted this to be the lead topic as he arrived in Davos, and maybe this is his way of extracting some sort of eventual agreement. I love your analysis and what we know so far about what President Trump's goal is in Davos, and is Greenland top of order for him?
I think what we know about Donald Trump after a decade of politics is the man knows how to seize a news cycle. And he isn't just the topic of conversation here in this country. He is the topic of conversation in the entire world because he's doing something that for the last century or so, the United States traditionally didn't do, which is seek to acquire more territory. I think that he is absolutely serious about planting the American flag in Greenland. This has been a theme for the first year of his second term in office. I think he wants to acquire more territory. And so yesterday, my question to him had to do with the Nobel Peace Prize, because in his private text messages with the Norwegian prime minister, which the president himself leaked on Truth Social, which is a wild thing to say in and of itself, he said that he was less inclined to pursue a peaceful resolution to this because of his snub from the Nobel Committee. And so my question to the president, kind of just point blank, was you promised to be America first in all things. How does you winning a Nobel Peace Prize actually improve the lives of the average American? And you've got to give it to Donald Trump. If you love the guy, if you hate the guy, either way, he's going to tell you exactly what is on his mind. And he admitted it's not going to improve the average life of an American.
So what do you think he's going to make news about? What are we going to be talking about in the next 48 hours as far as what he says about Greenland and Davos? What do you...
Yeah, I mean, I think that my expectation here is that, Donald Trump is going to go to Greenland. There's going to be a lot of bluster. And then, in all likelihood, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is going to be proved right. All of this unprecedented drama is just going to be a bunch of hysteria, right? Bessent says at the World Economic Forum yesterday, don't panic, don't react to this threat of tariffs because of Greenland. Just come to some sort of settlement. I think that there eventually will be a settlement. I think sometimes we overplay the art of the deal, getting what he wants out of these world leaders.
And how we've seen it so many times that if he doesn't have leverage in a situation, he goes and creates leverage so that he has leverage and then reaches some sort of deal or agreement that he wants. I think that that's probably a wise assessment, to just take a deep breath and see what Scott Bessent is saying. And we'll follow that lead, Phil Wegmann. We'll see what comes of Davos. And I'm glad you didn't have to make that trip. Stay close to home.
Fine.
Yes, exactly. Besides, somebody's got to shovel the walk out in front of the place. Thank you, Phil.
Take care.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, President Trump arrives in Davos, Switzerland, where they used to talk about the weather. Now they're going to talk about Greenland. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
All right, Bethany Mandel, I don't know this about you or about Seth or about, would you call yourself a Star Trek aficionado? Are you a Trekker, Trekkie, or anything like that?
It's so funny that you asked that question. This is one of the biggest disagreements in my marriage, actually.
Really?
I love Star Trek. Seth does not. I grew up, my mom used to bring me to Star Trek conventions.
Oh, my.
Yeah. They're really fun.
All right.
People dress up. It's great.
Well, in that case, cut 12 here in the immortal words of William Shatner, Bethany.
Get a life, will you, people?
That's what he said to the Saturday Night Live depiction of the Trekkers at the conventions. But William Shatner, 94 years old. So given your affinity to Star Trek, I need you to make a judgment call on this, because this is a very controversial story. TMZ posted a photograph of William Shatner, 94 years old, behind his steering wheel, sitting at a stoplight, eating a bowl of cereal. Now,
I did not believe this until I saw the picture.
It's a real thing. This is happening. Now, here's my question for you. What's the weirdest thing about this story? That William Shatner is eating a bowl of cereal at a stoplight while behind the wheel. That William Shatner at 94 years old is behind the wheel at all. Or that TMZ thought this was newsworthy and actually wrote a story about it.
It is absolutely newsworthy because here we are talking about it, and they knew that this would be the case. Okay, so I want to spend this segment breaking this down exactly.
Please go for it.
So he has this bowl, and
Yeah.
he's at a stoplight and he's eating it with his hand. But when the light turns green, where does he put the bowl? Is it in his lap? Because that you could get milk all over you, and then you're going to smell like boiled milk. Do you put it next to you in the seat? Because that's going to spill all over your seat, and then your seat's going to smell, again, like rotten milk. What is happening inside his car when he's not driving or eating it?
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, I can't tell by looking at the car whether it's a Tesla or not. That does change the equation because if it's a Tesla, you don't necessarily have to have your hands on the wheels or what. I'm not saying that I've eaten a bowl of cereal while driving my Tesla. I'm just saying that I know that this is possible, all right, number one. Number two, I can't tell. There could be somebody in the passenger seat that we just can't see from the photograph, and maybe they're holding the bowl for him while he drives. All right. Number three, and here's the most controversial take, and I want you to, and we'll tweet this out on our social media pages as well so you can see the picture. Take a look. How do you know there's a liquid in that bowl? He could be going dry. He could just be eating that cereal dry.
You know, we should really break things down in their really minuscule bits like this.
This is why people tune in. We give the deep dive analysis that you're not going to get in one of those fancy podcasts.
Into the things that matter, like William Shatner. But your second question of how is he driving? Obviously not very safely.
No. Well, I don't think, with all due respect, even a 94-year-old not distracted, not eating a breakfast product, and giving all of his attention to driving is still a 94-year-old behind the wheel.
I hope he's got a kid who's able to take the keys.
Why doesn't he have a driver? He's William freaking Shatner, for God's sake.
I think it's time to take the keys.
You know what? Here's what he needs. He needs George Takei to drive him around.
No.
Mr. Sulu is always the helmsman. He needs to be able to just tell Takei. The problem is George Takei hates William Shatner.
So the TMZ headline, I just saw it, and this is really what we should have led with. William Shatner, brand me up, Scotty.
Well, there you go.
That's perfect.
That's why TMZ is exactly what they are. It's 7:53.